Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we discuss a lovely Bethune DB28 in a combination of grade 5 titanium and rose gold. A work of art. It is full of patented innovations, and you know at first glance what it is, what model, who made it, the definition of an icon. The timepiece is large, but it's thin. You can see in terms of diameter, just the case, 42.6 millimeters. Turning it in profile, it's only 11.2 millimeters thick, and then we've got two different lengths for the lugs, and then everything in between. So these are the patented spring-loaded floating lugs here. They will conform to your wrist when they are fully compressed, 53.8 millimeters side to side. When they are fully extended, 58 millimeters from side to side, so a little bit more than a 4 millimeter range of adjustment. We have a 26 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. On the wrist, the watch wears flat and flush. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and I believe that's a good size for wearing this watch on these lugs. There were several different sizes of lugs. Lugs can be swapped out by the factory to tailor the fit. But on this pair of lugs, I feel like 16 centimeter circumference wrists and up. Now the timepiece does have a very thin profile and it will slip underneath the cuff. So if wearing this with a sleeve is a priority, you're gonna find that it's a good match in that regard. Taking a look at the strap, you can see here we have a lovely strap, suede on the bottom. We have a fascinating take on leather on the top. You can see it's been hot stamped with striations that run end to end. A unique texture and a unique aesthetic that I have never seen previously paired with a Bethune watch. And then you can see on the underside, also a gold stitch. The contrast between the blue and the gold is a nice match, complementing the dial tones and the case tones of the watch itself. Taking a look at the strap in profile, you can see it's been shear cut and lacquered blue for refinement. That is a brand new strap, no crimping, no gouging in that regard, with a buckle that, as with most Bethune buckles, is designed to correspond to the design of the lugs on the watch with which it is paired. So you can see it has this open, airy, sort of prismatic aesthetic with a combination of titanium and rose gold. And then we get that very same aesthetic with the lugs themselves. Taking a look at the end of the lug, we have these little torpedo tips, or the ogival profiles. A little link to the very first Bethune watch, the DB1 chronograph of 2002. They have been featured on most Bethune designs since, not all, but most. The grade 5 titanium lugs are there to take up a lot of the impacts that you may have with objects in the course of daily life, protecting the case on the inside. Grade 5 tie, in my experience, when it's polished, is probably the base metal that shows the fewest marks. I don't know why that is, but it is harder than most watchmaking steels, and that might be part of the reason. You can see the little pusher adjuster and profile for the moon. The moon is a sphere, 1/2 blued steel, 1/2 white palladium. They start as both silver, and then one hemisphere blues as it's heated over a bed of brass shavings atop an oil lamp. Now, if you look carefully, you can also see the bevel gear from the drivetrain of the watch that turns the moon phase. Once corrected, it will require correction only once every 122 years. This long-duration spherical moon phase is patented. Now, the watch has a monoblock primary case. If you look, you could see that the case has no separate bezel. So the case and the bezel are one piece, which creates a seamless aesthetic. The crown is a screw down, though the watch is 30 meters water resistant. The main reason for the screw down crown is that it doesn't wind up coming in contact with the lugs, and so it's not displaced or damaged as a result. There is a little bit of a camber to the sapphire. Note the complex form of the sapphire following the lip of the case down around the moon phase. Now we have this beautiful polished titanium outer chapter ring, and then inboard of that we have polished titanium cabochon for the hours. We have a lovely center dial with a polished steel cap atop the barrel bridge, and then fired steel springs flanking the triple parachute shock protection system. Likewise, we have fired hands, which are sort of modified Breguet style. We have a lot of patents in here as well. First, 1, 2, 3 shock protection springs. That's called triple parachute. Yes, it's there to prevent damage, but its primary purpose is actually chronometry. If these flanking springs can take up most of the shock, that prevents the balance staff pivot from being displaced from its pivot cups, which improves the chronometry of the watch. Now, we also have have a disc of silicon with a white gold rim. This is one of de Bethune's 10 patented balances, and it's at least 10, honestly. Denis Flageolet, the watchmaking founder of the company, still in control today of the creative process. Every time he has the ability to redesign a balance wheel to make it better, he does. Now, this is, I believe, it's the 2009 or 2010 patent balance, and it's my favorite because the only way to see it moving is to look at the hairspring. It has a full disc wheel with a rim made of white gold, and the idea here is to minimize the effects of temperature change on timing, aerodynamic drag on timing, and then to maximize the percent of total mass in the rim. We also have a patented balance curve. So the curve underneath, the spiral, this balance spring starts as a regular flat hairspring. It's then cut with the terminal curve shaped by hand to create this little dog leg profile. So what that does is it centers the mass in a way that allows it to breathe concentrically like an overcoil while remaining flat and thin like a flat hairspring, and that curve is patented. If you look very carefully, just above the balance bridge, you can see the little micro clamp that clamps the two pieces of the hairspring back together. Taking a look at the bridge, you can see it's rounded, fully mirrored, and actually conical as the radius decreases as you move toward the edge. That level of finishing is something you associate with the likes of Romain Gaultier, Ferdinand Berthoud, perhaps the highest standard of Valet de Jeu, Grubel Forsey, maybe Laurent Ferrier in Geneva. But de Bethune is excellent from a finishing standpoint, and that's an example of that. That is a no-compromise component. You'll also note here the barrel bridge, which features Côte de Bethune, more on that in a moment. It has a broad mirrored bevel on its edge. You can see that the springs for parachute, they have actually been mirror beveled on their sides as well. Now, taking a quick look, all screw heads are mirror finished. There's snailing on the barrel covers, and if you look very closely at the ratchet wheel, you should be able to distinguish the micro beveling on the teeth of the wheel. Absolutely no compromise. You may also miss, if you blink, this little power reserve indicator on the dial side. It moves between this blue cabochon and that jewel. And the way this works is if you take a look at the case back, you can actually see the conventional power reserve indicator for the manual wind 6-day power reserve. All this beats away at 4 Hertz. The twin barrels give you 6 days of power reserve, and they're self-adjusting, which is patented, so you can't accidentally overwind them. It's a 38 joule movement. It's 30 millimeters in diameter, so it's a nice big movement to fill the case. And the timepiece features ruthenium-laced bridges and then the cap to the base plate. So I talked about Côte de Bethune, and what that means is the reversing wheel that lays down the stripes is actually turned in 2 different directions. So as it's drawn down the bridges, it turns in one direction on one side and another direction on the other side, with the result that the stripes mirror each other. So if you look here, you can see the dark side of each stripe. It's parallel on each side. So here's an example. The dark side of the stripe faces inboard. And here, the dark side of the stripe faces inboard. That's because the wheel that lays down these stripes is reversed, so they mirror each other from side to side. You can also see that the jewel sinks have been internally beveled, and then diamond paste is used to black polish this steel cap on top of the barrel bridge. No detail is overlooked. You do have that power reserve indicator on the case back, along with more blued metal and rose gold. This watch is simply full of artistry, but also smart engineering. And de Bethune doesn't make that many watches. I believe they made 331 last year, so even as the company has matured, it has not cranked up the volume. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.